Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TTV podcast, episode 319. I'm Meso.
I'm Eljay.
I'm Invi.
And I'm Hayley.
What's so funny?
I thought you'd be more like, I'm dead.
No, it's like the podcast starts up and instead of hello everyone, it's hello everyone.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty in line with what I said. That's
The TTV podcast.
Trust me,
Yeah,
you might think I sound bad, but like this is how I sounded a few weeks ago. This is how I sounded on last week's podcast. At least this week I sound like somewhat normal. You know?
Yeah.
All right,
Out
man.
of a slight gravel, my voice is totally back. I can even do my laugh. Hee hee.
That's Michael Jackson's laugh,
That's
buddy.
your laugh?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Michael Jackson act is back.
So, yeah. Point proven. But yeah, how you guys doing this fine Saturday morning?
Well, I think I'm a little brighter-eyed and bushier-tailed than the two of you, specifically referencing
Dear
Meso
goodness.
and Hayley.
I'm fine. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm fine.
I do not sound like
I'm
that.
fine too.
No, of course.
I do not sound like that.
I'm just saying, when it was a start time, somebody was busy catching Z's like they were Pokemon.
You are correct.
Yeah.
That did happen.
Oh hey, I did set my alarm for 10:30 and then I just turned over and ignored my clock and then
Tisk, tisk,
Well
tisk.
done, Haley. Meanwhile, I wanted to set my clock for 10:30, but didn't, and set it for 11 instead. So,
see? So I was the
What?
better out of these two.
correct.
That is fair, and admittedly, the expectation does not lie as heavily upon you. However, Haley, that's still a slap on the wrist. We're adding this to your permanent record.
All right.
I took a nap and I was worried that I was going to sleep in past the time because I did not set an alarm since it is 10 p.m. for me now and my nap started at like 3. So, but when I woke up, it was like 8 or something. I don't remember, but I was so terrified. Like I woke up and I didn't know what day it was.
Amazing.
It was like
Too soon.
it was like
I'm
pitch
too
black.
soon.
I'm like, and I'm just like, what? Oh gosh, is it Sunday already? Oh no! Like, oh, never mind. It's like
Gosh.
just Saturday evening. My bad.
No, Bobby.
We good.
Nah. Sleep is good when you get into that rhythm.
Mm,
But
is it? So
I almost
why...
didn't want to show up.
Sam, when I got the call from Eljay, I was like, oh yeah.
you called
I mean, hey, yeah, I called him twice because
Yeah.
when he wasn't around at start time, and it showed him as away on Discord, I had a brief thought. I was thinking, you know what? Maybe we'll just start it without him. Maybe this will just be a two-man podcast, two-man, one-woman podcast if you showed up, Haley. But I decided, you know what? I'm going to call him. He did do the same for me, and that's not just because he can't run this podcast without me, because I'm hosting it. But he would do me the
Because I have
courtesy
done it
of
numerous
calling,
times.
so I'll call him.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
But no, there was a brief moment where I was like, oh god, should I just... But Dreamland beckons.
Mhm.
But,
Kirby?
You could have taken a week off. I wouldn't have blamed you.
nah.
Even though
I
I
almost
definitely
took a
would
week
have
off,
blamed
but-
you.
Yeah, but you definitely.
Yeah, I'm surprised
contemplated.
you're here, Haley. Last night you were very cagey about whether you'd be on or not.
Yeah, I was cagey too, but I woke up. Got a good night's sleep. So
Wonderful.
I feel fine. I feel golden, which is weird.
I feel good.
But-
No, one of you got a good night's rest. The other one of you was up rather late.
Yup.
Yeah, because were you watching Shield?
Yeah, I watched some shit.
There we go.
Yeah.
My
Got 'em.
11th rewatch of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Shake
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
head.
So you gotta accumulate that crew, huh? Work on them one by one.
Pretty
I'll
much.
admit, they all like Shield after all.
I posted on the Shield. I posted on the Shield Reddit a while back because someone made a thread and was like, "Do you ever rewatch the show?"
That's what he's talking about. He knows. He saw that
Oh.
post you made.
Oh, very nice. They were like 11 times.
Yeah.
What?
See, any rational person would share the same sentiment.
Yeah.
I
no.
have zero regrets.
You should have many regrets. Those are a few too many times.
Nope.
Oh, if you're
Shield.
watching it with someone, then I understand. But if you just watch it 11 times on your own volition, then there's something
See,
wrong with you.
No, I think
I
at some
absolutely
point.
live for the reactions. I live
'Cause
for
there's
them.
other shows besides Shield. Like Shield's great, but like 11 times, 5 seasons, 40 minutes each. You crazy?
Yeah, that's just such a time vacuum. I would not want to sink that much time into the same show over and over.
If you're
Personally,
watching it with another person, then I understand.
If
'Cause
people
I've
would have
seen
watched
the
it with me at the
regular
same
over
time,
20 times because
I
I'm
wouldn't
showing
have
it
one
to.
him. That's all right. Your army won't convince me otherwise to cave in.
See, I just think
Out of
at
everyone
some
I've
point-
showed it to, the only person who's walked away and hasn't really liked it is Var, but he gave it a chance and he watched all of it.
Yeah, and he
doesn't
actually,
like spy
he stays on
shows.
top of it. It's impressive.
Mm,
More
What else?
dedication than I would ever want to give to it.
No, I'm just saying. At some point, you gotta let people have some what is it? Autonomy. You know, they just need to watch it on their own, like normal folks would, and then you guys can talk.
I
about
gave
it.
Abby, Haley's friend who I'm watching this with, that shot. She's watched a fair amount of episodes by herself because of time zone scheduling.
Fair enough.
But I put the brakes on that for season 4 because season 4 is gold.
No, you don't need everyone's reactions.
I really do,
don't-
though.
You gotta.
I really
You
do,
have a
though.
problem, Meso. This is an intervention. We're trying to help you,
No, I'll never change.
Meso. You need to
I would
seek
ditch
help.
everything I would ditch everything I'm doing or watching or playing tomorrow if Main was like, let's binge through Shield. I'll do
Envy?
it. I'm crazy.
Statements that will never be said unironically.
I do agree with him with reactions because reactions are amazing.
100%.
I think
Because
you know what?
I'm a filmmaker. That's what I live for. You make the stuff for people to watch it, so you want to see what people like if you like it.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can understand that. Trust me, I have a very recent frame of reference. However, Meso didn't make Shield.
Listen, I may as well get like a mention in the credits at this point.
Yeah, no,
Don't
you
you
should
dare.
not.
The
Like
largest
not.
advocate.
Nope.
Brett
That does
Also-
nothing. That does nothing. That's great. Go work on the show, and then you can be the
Handshake
largest
from
advocate.
Brett Dalton.
No, Brett Dalton should come in and do a PSA. TV addiction is a serious problem in the United States. This
You want
He's
a
an-
credit? Go be a PA.
this
Go
is
work.
an associate of mine, Tyler Anderson. He suffers from television addiction, watching the very show that I used to star in.
Used to.
Oh man, I love Hunter. He says Meso didn't make Shield. Shield made Meso. Very accurate.
Oh no! Why would you say that, Hunter? Don't encourage him.
Good job, Hunter. Love that. But anyway, that's a thing.
It came back last night.
I suppose that's worth mentioning as well. The Shield season 6 premiere. I've been pondering something because I could literally do like an hour-long like breakdown of Shield episodes. I don't really want to do it on a podcast because number one, no one really cares as much as me, and number two, half the audience
true.
probably doesn't care. But would anyone be interested in like a Shield show every week where myself and anyone who cares talk about the episode after a little bit of time? I get 2 yeses, but that's only from the Shield fan.
Do you know what you guys are subscribing to? It's going to be a 2-person show that might air. It will be Meso and Hayley possibly talking about it every week. Maybe.
You say that like I'm gonna be there.
Yeah. If anything, I would expect you to be there.
Okay, I'm going to
Well,
be
I only
honest
say that
with you.
'cause, I don't know what time it would be, and Saturdays. Already
Yeah.
this podcast, add another podcast.
Yeah, I don't need any more podcasts on Saturdays. I'm all good.
Already.
Fair enough.
Ninjago will be coming back soon. So that's Ninjago cast plus Breck Feed plus TTV plus Shield cast.
Fair
plus
enough.
A possible Marvel cast if the shows come out and
Oh,
blah
no.
blah 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 blah. So.
Oh no.
If we're not doing a podcast for Shield, we're definitely not doing one for the Marvel shows. It'd just be wrapped up in the. TTV.
I mean, one affects more people than the other.
Yeah, but even still, we don't
Uh-huh.
we didn't do the Marvel podcast for Endgame.
It was close
Just to
enough.
be,
Yeah,
wrapped up
close
on the
enough
TTV
is about right.
podcast. Yeah, it was a TTV podcast.
Which-
That's all it'd be.
It's weird, but whatever.
Do you disagree?
I mean, yeah, we've been over this.
It should be on TTV Talks, but has been retired.
Well, I don't know why
Sure,
it's been
sure.
retired. Okay, this is something I was
Stuff can come out of retirement, like the top tens. You know,
Like
you can make a video
Biocraft.
why I'm bringing. You could make a video why I'm bringing back TTV Talks, and then just like only release 1 or 2 more videos after that.
Bingo.
So there are a few things. First of all, Captain Rex of
I
the
released more
501st.
top 10s than you have analyses in that time frame.
That's not true.
Ooh.
Not true.
Cat fight.
Mhm.
So
It's all right. I'll have one like done by tomorrow or the day after. You just watch. Oh yeah, today is the 6th anniversary of the analysis. I'll
Happy birthday!
release the first one 11 or not. I almost said 11. Nexty 6, not 11. Definitely 6.
I remember when it was knee high to a grasshopper. But real fast, Captain Rex of the 501st over in the YouTube live chat asks if there'll be any spoilers for Endgame during this episode.
Later, yes. But
Sort
not
of.
right now.
Really?
We'll mark it.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, yeah.
because we're going to be
Great.
talking about the Spider-Man Far From
The
Home.
snapping.
Yeah.
Anyone who has
That's
said
so-
that will know of a pretty big one.
Meso, I something though. There is a way to get a version of me to watch Shield. Maybe not
version?
specifically me, but if you were to go back in time and you
Oh,
were able to
God.
float my cable bill when Shield first came out, maybe I would have stuck with it. So you could get alternate universe mange to watch Shield and be an active watcher, but you'll never get this
No.
universe's version.
Fair enough.
Tyler, in order to get Envy to watch Shield, you have
Be-
to succumb
yeah,
to time travel.
You have to do what you hate in order
The hardest choices
to get what you
often
love.
the strongest wills. That's a tough little wrinkle to solve right there. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know what to make of that one.
Unless time travel is actually
Let
It's
Envy
actually-
into the Inviverse.
Perfect.
unless there are causal loops and you would go back in time and affect the current universe.
Maybe.
The only way it'll work.
10 that actually came out after Meso announced the top 10's coming back. Yeah, I made about 4 in that time frame. 2 I made before the video, which was top 10 Bionicle unused concepts, I think it was called, and then top 10 weirdest Bionicle characters. Then I made that video everyone memes into oblivion, and then I made the top 10 awesome things about Bionicle 09 and the top 10 worst things about G2's ending in the span of about a month or a month and a half. I don't know.
I
What
have
are
a
they?
top 10 coming out.
He does, yes.
I have one that's been, I say scripted, but it's been ordered and it has been voiced. So the recording is done, the audio is done. I just have only gotten feedback from one person, that's Meso, and
Hello.
because I'll tell you what it is. It's top 10 TTV misconceptions. So top 10 misconceptions about the channel. And I think that's a pretty good top 10. It's just because of the nature of it, I need more feedback from the rest of the folks. Because in in an episode where I'm talking about us being individuals, I really need input from the individuals when I'm talking on behalf of everyone.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Uh-huh.
Just harass them when they get on.
Yeah. Prentice. Number 6. Meso and Eljay are not the same person.
Ha, 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 ha,
Perfect.
Yes, that's true.
But wouldn't that be? I mean, that's a more recent one. But what about debunking Meso and Ven?
Yeah, me and
I
Ven
mean,
is the real one.
I can't do that.
Venomac.
I cannot do that. They are the same person.
Hello, everybody, and welcome
They
to
are.
the Mock Spotlight. Today, we're going to be taking a look
Easy.
at.
Eljay.
Whoopsie daisy. I wanted to go see Meso's video, and yeah, he did make two.
No.
He did make two.
No.
What?
Haley and Var are the same person.
No.
That is true. They are
better
interchangeable.
case.
What?
Haley, their replacement.
No.
Haley and Meso are the same person.
And
Two sides.
here's where
Same
VAR would
coin.
say, no, that's not true.
I mean,
Yes.
no, VAR
Are
would
you
definitely
speaking of
agree
VAR's
with us.
He's actively debunked it numerous times, but okay.
DT, number 10. Meso has been imagining his girlfriend the whole time.
That would suck. That'd be quite
that,
a twist.
that would explain Girl Meso after all.
Yeah, it would.
Well,
The person Meso likes
I mean,
the
I am
most
just
is
a
Meso.
robot, so therefore it is imagining. So
Hayley, no. Say it ain't so.
say what?
So you're not a robot.
Well, it's against my code.
Cannot confirm or
so-
deny.
Yikes.
Shield watching robot. Knew it all
My
along.
first name was Ada.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Point
It all
being,
comes
I
together.
want to talk about weekly Shield episodes. Might not be able to do it in a video format. Maybe I'll do a message boards topic. I don't know. Do in-depth episode reviews. Point being, some brief thoughts on episode 1, non-spoilery. It essentially felt like almost a reboot because there were like a billion new characters, which is good. If you're gonna do a show like this and have it be 6 seasons long and have a massive like time jump and have it be 100 years since it last aired, some variety is nice to keep things fresh. And they've mixed up the cast. There's like just as many new people as there are regular people, and it's good. It felt nice. Lots of cool, fresh dynamics, some stellar VFX, a lot of really good emotionally charged scenes, and their budget is back. That's the other
Yeah.
big thing to mention. Anyone who watched season 5 knows they had a ridiculously reduced budget, and they had to reuse their set pieces a lot, and including indoor corridors that all looked the same. Season 6, they're like, yeah, we evidently have more money now, so we're going to do a lot of outside daytime scenes, and it's nice. It feels good. There are a few issues that I won't bore everyone to tears with, especially on the spoiler front, but there is a timeline discrepancy about whether or not it can fit into the MCU chronology, because there's the whole debate, is Shield canon, blah blah blah, and the answer is yes, unless there's a contradiction. Like, you do not, Pila Car likes to troll in the chat, but you don't need references for something to be canon. References are just a way to acknowledge it. It's canon if it works in this chronology of the story. Shield right now has a little bit of a time-related plot hole that is making things a bit difficult, because season 5 ended in parody with the beginning of Infinity War, where the Black Order, the way they were attacking Earth, blah blah blah, Thanos on Wakanda, etc., etc. And then season 6 takes place 1 year later, and yet it's before the snap. So, yeah, you can reason out the problem with that very quickly. Yes, the showrunners have stated it's before the snap. I won't link the article why, because it contains spoilers, but there have been several interviews where they essentially were like, yeah, we didn't know when our show was going to air. If we did anything to do with Endgame, it could possibly spoil Endgame or not have it make sense. So the only way we can tell our story is to have it not factor in the snap whatsoever, which from a filmmaking perspective, I get. It makes perfect sense. And it's just another case of the movie people not telling the TV people like all the facts they need to know to make an informed storytelling decision. It's not like it's their fault, but it still sucks.
Yeah, Meso, your imaginary girlfriend is being abducted by aliens, according to Wadden.
So
Oh my gosh, Hayley!
Oh gosh.
Don't say anything. Okay, now say something.
I'm giving up on you.
Oh my
no.
gosh,
She
the
is a
Borg has
robot.
got her.
rip. Yeah. What does that sound like on your end?
She is a robot.
I am a robot.
Oh my gosh.
Haley, no! First I cut out and now this.
Wait, one more time.
What?
Oh my god.
Haley, you need to go to the stream right now and listen to yourself. This is amazing. Exterminate.
I have a nerve.
All right, so Haley, go ahead, just like entirely restart Discord. Okay. In the meantime, while she works on that, before we continue our tangent, I would like to shout out a super chat from Makuta Pterodax, who graciously donated 10 euros to the super chat, and with this message. Greetings, everyone, Mesonac, Eljay, and others. I missed the anniversary stream, so my belated congratulations on reaching 9 years. Your channel is so bright, not even my shadows will diminish its light.
Aww.
Which is ever so
That's so
kind.
nice.
This is followed up by a $1 a donation from Matthew Griffith, who you may know well in the community as Umatu. Thank you very much. Thank you,
2
Matt.
weeks in a row, Matt. Thank you.
Very excited to chat with
Free
you
buck,
later.
man.
Thank you, Pterodax. You should have sent us $9
Yes,
because
and
of the
my-
9-year anniversary.
Oh my gosh, Messa,
But
why are
I'm-
you?
But
Why would you do that?
I am kind of curious. if
I'm
this is
bartering
a-
for less money for thematic purposes.
Oh my gosh.
I'm kind of curious if this was the same guys last week, because last week our donor was Rakshi Lirak, and then conveniently this week is Makuta Pterodax.
They're
Getting the whole evil band together to donate.
they're having a family dispute.
The evil
Yeah.
band is getting back together.
But
But,
thank you for real.
Yeah, thank both of you. We thank you both very,
I
very much.
appreciate.
Where did I
Your
cut out
money.
on my spiel, by the way?
Oh, you didn't. I don't think.
I didn't really.
No.
My internet went out.
Oh.
Point being, in summary, it's an unsolvable plot hole because it takes place a year after the Black Order is attacking New York, but before the snap. It's impossible to reconcile unless they go the route of the person who mentioned that Thanos was attacking was lying, which is possible because of reasons. Namely, that person wasn't exactly trustworthy and he was trying to manipulate someone. So they could retcon it to say he was lying. Or, yes, some time travel shenanigans, which Season 5 involved, causing time displacement or multiverse or blah-de-blah-de-blah. Will they go that route or just continue to wallow in this implausible plot hole and just make their fan base pissed off? Time will tell. For now, let's check in with Hayley. How are you, Doug?
Can y'all still hear me?
we can hear robot you.
Try unplugging and replugging your mic.
Have you tried turning it off and
Look in
turning it on
YouTube.
again?
Look in YouTube chat.
Yeah, I mean, you probably still have the stream open on YouTube. I had to.
There's no YouTube on my computer. On my phone.
Ah.
There's nothing on my computer connected to the podcast, and I can still hear y'all through my microphone.
Holy
God.
Toledo.
It's been possessed. Well, what do we do?
I'm actually gonna agree with Niels A. Anderson in the live YouTube chat. Well, it happens to me when my laptop overheats, which would necessitate a reboot.
Oh, wonderful.
That would be my immediate next recommendation, which is fine because there is something that we can discuss while she works on that. So Haley, try rebooting the entire computer, and
Sorry.
we'll still be here when you're back. It's
It's alright, Robo Haley.
Are
Okay.
you there? I'm sorry, Haley.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Is this better?
Yes, you no longer sound like a robot.
Great. Let me reboot my computer now.
Okay, fair enough.
Cool. She
So-
switched to her phone.
Okay, so Shield, if we want to wrap up on that.
Yeah, I'm done, pretty much.
Okay.
It's a wonderful premiere. It's just somewhat tainted because they kind of put a stop to their own hype with this pointless thing that's got everyone going, it's not connected. It's not canon. Plot hole. And I can't even say they're wrong to say that, because this is unequivocally true. This is a plot hole that can't be explained. It's just, it kind of puts a damper on the billion other redeeming qualities of what was a stellar premiere, and all anyone can talk about is that, which is a little unfortunate, but hopefully they'll resolve it in time. That's basically all.
Yeah, fair enough. Watched the premiere yesterday, and it was super good. It was really good.
What's your thing?
No, who, me?
Yeah, you said you had a thing.
So I was going to talk about TTV Talks, and in the podcast. So, as I'm sure you may have gleaned by now, the TTV podcast, specifically, not the channel, but the podcast itself, celebrated 9 years last week. It's been running for almost a decade. Next year is going to be the big 1-0. And that
double digits.
That came very close to not happening.
Yes.
And the reason I'm saying that is because you mentioned the TTV Talks has been kind of shelved. It's not in circulation right now. And it almost became a case. This is a little bit of background information. So when the Reckoning happened back in March of 2018,
when we took out the trash?
It was garbage day. Technically termination day, which was yesterday, the 10th. There was the big cast shakeup and so on and so forth.
The shuffle.
The shuffle. It goes by many names. We need to decide on one.
I like using my own term.
VAR had proposed a document of things he would like to do in the post.
Yeah, if we were gonna keep the channel at all, he had his own ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of his ideas included completely and utterly, right then and there, shutting down the TTV podcast wholesale and stopping it entirely. And in its place, only TTV Talks. And he just wanted to replace the TTV podcast with TTV Talks. And now it's become an instance of where Meso and I fought pretty hard for the TTV podcast, and it's obviously still here. However, for some reason, TTV Talks was traded for that, and I don't think it should have been.
Well, here's why. I can share some light on this. The way the podcast works, it used to be very, Bionicle centric, because it was our Bionicle podcast, as well as anything else we wanted to talk about that was of interest, like we did E3 coverages, etc. And then everything Lego was handled on Brickfeed. Well, when Bionicle died, we tried to keep it going for a little while. We converted it into G3. That ended up ballooning too much. We split that off. So TTV was left with, it was our random podcast. It was where we got together every week to talk about things that were interesting to us. There were some episodes where we did nothing, and we just kind of goofed off, and we just talked about whatever, and we made jokes, and they were funny episodes, like Build a Baby.
Mm-hmm.
That one was classic. But it depends on the cast if an episode like that can work. Not that we're not all funny people, but there's a certain level of like charisma and banter. The right amount of people have to be on, and the right people in question to have an episode like that work. Otherwise, it just kind of boils down to topics, topical podcasts, which we discussed that in the past. It's a fine line between talking about relevant news and media and just kind of being boring about it, but it's usually like, all right, so it's time for the TTV podcast. What happened this week that's worth talking about? In this week's case, the S.H.I.E.L.D. premiere and the Far From Home trailer. If there was Lego news, I'd talk about it, but that goes on Brickfeed. And if no one has any cool, personal, funny stories, then that's what it usually becomes. And if you have TTV Talks sectioned off for the media conversations or the episode reviews or the movie trailer discussions, then that takes another big chunk away from TTV's potential topics. And it kind of boils down to us just getting into a call and just winging it, which is what He Who Must Not Be Named was always an advocate of. And it only worked 50% of the time, because you need some kind of framework. But if all the discussion topics are being done elsewhere, then you see the problem.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of an unsolvable quandary there.
I think I'm very happy that the TTV podcast specifically is still around. I don't actually think that should ever go away. The TTV podcast to me ends when the channel is done. When we are no longer contributing to the channel actively, then the TTV podcast has its final episode, and that's a wrap. Because I think
We should end it on 420.
Very funny.
Oh my god.
I think if we were to end it on anything, we would end it on episode 333. Personally. That's how I do it.
You love the number 3.
Well, I mean,
That's
The
like
power of 3.
look at the look at
Will
the
the
Go ahead.
will the B be 3?
Oh my gosh. I mean, look at our history. Look at where TTV originated from. By the way, it's mentioned in my top 10 TTV misconceptions. But I don't know. I think that'd be how I do it. But I think that the way that it's described on the TTV wiki, which, by the way, guys, sweet new Biocraft Chronicles trivia in the director's commentary. It's the flagship. It's the flagship series for the channel, and it's the best illustration of how things have changed. It's like the rings in a tree. Like when you cut down a tree and you see the rings, and can generally tell you how old that tree is. That's the TTV podcast for us.
You cut open the TTV podcast so you see how many rings it has.
Exactly. And you see how it changes over
you
time.
can't know how old it is until you break it down.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hayley.
Wait.
No.
What? No. Wait, what? No. So, I
Amazing.
think TTV Talks should come back. I just think it should be relegated to a every now and then kind of a deal instead of an every so more regular series.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like,
We could probably use it for full movie reviews.
I
That
would
could
like
be a-
to use it
TTV
for that.
Talks movies, TTV Talks video games.
Yeah, I mean,
Not
TTV
that.
Talks
Endgame.
focuses on like a single.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
broad like
Simple
that, but like
subject.
TTV Talks, Avengers Endgame, you know?
So, and that would be
Oh
me.
gosh.
But yeah,
Wrong.
that's kind of a look into things. Oh no.
Yeah. Var's exact pitch, for context's sake, he was like, the way we handle podcasts right now are dull and boring. I really liked what we were doing with TTV Talks prior to merging it with the podcast and moving Brainstorm. I suggest we retire Brainstorm entirely, which we did. Barely anyone was interested in it, and it was a slog to get through. This one's more radical, but I also think it's time we retire the TV podcast as well. The format's dated, it's long, it's boring, and trying to think of things to talk about every week was beginning to get very
It's coarse,
difficult.
it's rough, it's irritating.
I also believe the sheer amount of episodes is very intimidating to viewers, especially new ones. It's easy to get lost, miss an episode, and fall behind in the queue. So that was his pitch.
This is
Um,
still something he agrees with. He still firmly believes we should have canceled TTV and replaced it with TTV Talks.
Yeah, he
Which-
wanted a bi-weekly brick feed podcast, so once every 2 weeks, and then a monthly TTV Talks live stream, and those would be all the podcasts we do.
Yeah, no.
Which I get from not wanting like fatigue. It brings it from 4 to 3, but I like our staples. I feel like they're a part of the TTV institution almost. And even if some of them are boring and some aren't as good as the others, or some podcasts suck, I feel like building that library is important.
Yeah. And I mean, the great thing about the TTV podcast is you don't have to follow it chronologically. The whole backlog, if you miss an episode, you fall behind in the queue. It doesn't matter anymore because we're not worried about telling stories every week and having a chronology where you have to pay attention, otherwise you're not going to understand the story. Podcast is a different flavor of soup.
Yep.
So, no.
No yawns allowed.
Yep.
No yawning. It's
Like-
a sign of weakness.
Well, the best TTV podcast is Ninjago Cast. That's like obvious.
Oh, really? Is it now?
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Well, because it's so much fun. And we're just so
Oh,
active.
yeah.
Just end up yelling at each other the whole time.
Now tell me, how did you feel about the Ninjago cast between August 2017 and March 2018? I'm very curious. What was that? You
Well,
said-
it's not. It doesn't come out, but when it does come out, oh man, you don't want to miss it.
Oh, okay, yeah. Mhm.
It was really good. I was on an episode then.
And you
Well,
should be on
yeah.
again.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, I should like Ninjago
Credentials are hard. You have to be dedicated to be on this podcast.
first. Ninjago has to be good first.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a personal problem.
Yeah.
Nah.
All right, computer's back on. I'm gonna slowly boot it back up.
Okay. Gotcha,
Wonderful.
Gotcha. So I think that's a little bit of an insight into the background of things, but TTV came about that close to being canned, and I still think we need TTV talks. I think it has a place here.
Can you do it? Can you do it?
Yeah, I mean, if there's a specific topic that we can talk about for like 30 minutes to an hour, that'd be great. But like TTV podcast is, hey, let's be random. What's on the news this week?
Essentially.
But like, there's enough like different stuff that you can't really boil it down to one video, like, or a video about one topic.
I mean,
yeah, only if it's like a movie review.
I think it can vary, personally. I actually think that you can have the movie reviews, and you can have the broad topics again.
I mean, you can.
Broad topics, yeah.
The Captain Marvel podcast is all the evidence you really need of that. Because we had like a almost 3-hour long podcast with a bunch of news and then a movie review.
Yeah,
you could have very easily split that up.
I agree. I definitely think that was an instance in where, I mean, heck, one of the main reasons I'm so against podcasts being devoted to movie reviews or discussing movies is because those are, in fact, podcasts. That if you don't have a vested interest in the subject matter being discussed, then yeah, you basically just skip an episode. You just don't listen to that episode, and I feel like that's kind of unfortunate. It's not very accessible to everyone to enjoy.
Mm-hmm. I get that.
But yeah, so it's interesting, and I doubt Var's gonna listen to this. But if you do, Var, I wish you were here, since you've been gone.
Yeah, he had a bunch of other.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing.
For the first time.
Hey, whoa! No copyrighted music.
Yes, we're gonna get copyright striked.
Yeah, like Biocraft.
Sorry.
Yo, LJ, we got a new
My singing
donation.
is right on
Yes.
pitch.
Yep.
He had a bunch of other things, a bunch of other plans, like making Let's Plays on the regular, which kind of got absorbed into the Nerfed channel, which, by the way, check out our Danganronpa Let's Plays continuing on, and we recorded the first episode of our next Let's Play after Danganronpa last night, which I won't spoil what it is, but we got plans for the future. I'm playing the game this time.
Not family friendly, by the way. Just an advisory.
Yeah.
Smash that subscribe button for TTV Nerf. Hit that
Smash that
notification
subscribe button. Join the Nerfed notifications.
Nope. Careful, buddy. That's not out yet. Careful.
Var also proposed bringing back art farts.
Yeah, that went
dramatic readings, like the Bionicle Revolution thing, which we should do more of. And sync viewing syncs, which we did like 3 or 4 viewing syncs that just like sat in editing Karzani for a long time.
Well, they are still sitting there. So to give you guys a bit of an idea, we did a viewing sync on Air Bud, the first Air Bud movie, and we did a viewing sync on the first Twilight movie. And both of those have gone jack squat nowhere.
Yep.
It was a fun experience. Well, for one of them.
Yeah. Var, like, and I can't even criticize Var for it because I never did the full version of the Civil War thing, you know. It's not fun to edit, and other stuff took priority, but
yeah,
it's fun. We sync view movies all the time, and it's always freaking hilarious. It's just, you know, actually chopping all that together is the struggle. Because Var wasn't content to just let the reaction play, and like in the Civil War video, he had to edit it and like spruce it up, and, you know, make clips and cuts and visual gags, etc.
Yeah. So.
But there were ideas for new, fresh content. None of them really worked out. We stuck with the same stuff,
which was entirely what Var wanted to avoid.
Yeah, you kind of lost out on that. I feel like we maybe could have compromised a bit better, but
I agree. That's what I'm saying here. I think we could have. We just didn't.
Yeah.
And most of the new content has either been Biocraft, which has been very recent, or it's been returning content like reviews.
Hayley, you must make the new show.
So,
I'm
soon.
working on it.
Yeah, Hayley,
It's
speed
getting
it
there.
up.
I know.
I was messing with her over the last week because every day she'd be like, "Today's the day I'm gonna work on, you know, Ninjago Autopsy." And I remember one day she like procrastinated and decided to get in call with you guys. The next day she was like, "Yeah, I'm trying to get this to work, but I can't get it to work, so I'm gonna like talk to Mange Dead and play
Mhm.
Bonk."
Oh,
And then
TTV.
you're right.
TTV podcast talks about TTV.
Meta commentary on a podcast, though. This is the TTV podcast about TTV talks about TTV.
Meta hype.
very briefly, apologies to anyone listening. There might have been a short cut. There was a brief drop. However, we have now resumed. So, just
Oh no.
hopefully it's all good. Let me know how it sounds.
They missed Envy's joke. Sorry, Envy.
No, they caught
What?
the tail end. TTV talks about
Oh,
TTV.
okay.
TTV podcast. TTV talks about TTV.
We got another super chat from Akuta Terada.
Yes.
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 €5. TTV was the first channel I watched on YouTube. If it was to go, the core of my YouTube experience would have been on-off viewing since 2012, 7 years ago. Well, first of all, thank you. Second of all, rest assured, TTV is not going anywhere. We talk about evolving the content and the names and the podcasts or whatever, but the channel itself is an institution at this point that will not be leaving anytime soon. I'm very committed to the idea, even if we end up splitting and like losing interest in time, that we will essentially train our successors to then hand the reins over. The TTV
We're going to hire a whole new cast, and then we'll all leave. And then there'll be a new
TTV
TTV,
reboot.
just with different people.
There would be a growth period, of course, like integration, but the channel will never just like stop existing with no videos.
We're in phase 2 of the TTV universe.
Essentially.
Where's the TTV endgame?
I think
Yeah.
Or we'll just give our channel to the BCC.
No.
I don't want Orion to touch this channel.
That's fine. I don't mind.
No, he's gonna start cooking Bionicle. No, it's. I think we should just give it to the next generation, the children. Just our children. Just reboot TTV. You're gonna hear the exact same voices. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be just a
What would they
complete
talk about?
retread.
Kid inside?
Bionicle G4.
You'd have a tiny Meso going, "Hey everyone, welcome. Last night I was talking to my friends."
Hey everyone. Hello.
Hayley, you gotta listen to IPZP to hear young
You do
country
not.
Meso.
You do not need to do that.
Last night.
Okay, well maybe for
Last
country
night
Meso.
I was over here hanging out. It's gonna be great.
Real briefly, we did get a non-super chat comment from Ree, also known as David, who commented, "What if every so often a TTV podcast is a TTV Talks, like TTV podcast on regular occasion, but if there's a specific topic y'all want to talk about, like a movie, it's TTV Talks." And I basically think that's exactly how we should do it. We already kind of do that. Like, right now, this is the general recording schedule. It's a podcast on Saturday morning. However, we don't know usually ahead of time which one that's going to be. Recently, it's been a string of TTV podcasts. However, we're due a brick feed pretty soon. That will just be taking place at this time. So it trades off. I think we could probably slot another podcast in there into the rotation, depending on the day, week, month, year.
Fair.
But
all right.
I don't know.
So, I think we've talked about TTV enough. Let's move into the Spider-Man trailer discussion.
No. There goes our
We don't wanna get
topic.
into that.
A Meso.
Yeah. If you
yes.
have not seen Endgame,
But
Hold on, what's up, Elda?
what about my Wasp story?
Oh, if you want to tell, go
I
ahead.
know you watched
That's funny.
the story.
Yeah,
Do
it's very brief. I just thought since we were talking about stories earlier, it'd be fun to include one because I actually have one.
Eljay took a field trip to Quatros.
I'm gonna exchange servers. I'll be right back.
Okay,
Okay.
gotcha. Yeah, I was thinking about this, and there was a podcast, TTV podcast episode 113, called Waspix Encounters of the First Kind. So I feel like it'd be apt to call this Waspix Encounters of the Second Kind.
That's the title.
Okay,
The
great.
title.
What?
So
Yes.
yesterday, in celebration of Termination Day, everyone here was in a call super early, which is super uncharacteristic for us. And we decided, in order to have fun while we were all around, well, let's play some Halo. We were playing some Halo Online, which is essentially Halo 3 for PC before it comes out. And we were having a blast. It was a grand old time. And everyone starts getting on. And all of a sudden, whap! Something lands on the collar of my shirt on the back of my neck. And I freak out, naturally, because I don't know what that is. Now, keep in mind, I don't have an allergy to bees or wasps, at least that I'm aware of. I've never been stung before. But it doesn't matter. It could have been a fly for all I cared. All I knew is that it was large, about the size of a minifigure, maybe a little smaller, and it was now on the back of my neck. So my natural reaction is to flip out. And so the others, they hear this bang of me.
Banging.
It's like, oh my gosh, oh gosh. And like I swat the back of my neck and I'm looking around like, oh my gosh, oh goodness.
Happened in the game.
Right?
Yeah.
We're like, whoa, someone really got him.
And so I look around and I see something moving on the ground. I'm like, what is that? And it's huge wasp. And I have no idea how it got into this room. And so I'm looking at it going, oh gosh, holy Toledo, that's huge. And so I try and step on it, but it flies off. And it looks like it went under my desk.
Where is it?
And so I lose. The worst thing
We're gonna
happens.
die.
I lose track of it. So I don't know where it went. And so I decide I'm not properly equipped for this. I need some heavy artillery. So I go to another room and I get a couple of things. First, the first weapon in the Eljay arsenal is gonna be a Type 1 Bug Assault. The original, or Type 2, I guess. The Bug Assault, the original salt gun. More power and less salt. This is essentially, it's a shotgun that fires high velocity salt. And it's usually
This is
used
so
for
confusing.
flies.
That surprised me that you own that.
And let me tell you right now, it's super
Old-fashioned
freaking.
Midwestern redneck.
It's super freaking effective. The second weapon in my arsenal was this spud puppy here, and I just call this an electrified tennis racket. That's almost the exact model. Essentially, you turn it on, and anything that hits the grate,
Those are great.
they're so good. They're so
Great at grates bugs.
It's a powerful shock too. Like it's nothing to mess around with.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Dark Takanounis has never played tennis against Eljay. He'll become poor.
So I grab these two things. I walk into the room, cock the bug assault, and I am ready to go. So I start looking. I'm like, all right, here, Waspix, where you go? The others are obviously still playing Halo. My score is going down, so I have to resolve this quickly. And then I see it. Now I hear the buzzing. And I look over, and there it is by my window. And the window is it's a bay window, and it has the blinds which are down, but they are open. So the blinds are mostly like they're covering the window. And so it's hard to maneuver my weaponry in there. So I decide, you know what? If I die now, this will be the greatest death in the history of TTV. Outside of the career of some. So I go for it. I decide, you know what? There's nothing to lose. So I go in. I take the shotgun, I aim it right at the wasp. It's none the wiser. It's like, how the heck do I get out of here? Zzz. Hasta la vista, Waspix. I shoot it. And I'll tell you right now.
It sounded like you were shooting a Nerf gun or something
Right?
in the background.
And so I shoot it. I have never seen this darn thing more ineffective. It just ticks it off. The wasp goes from, how do I get out of here, to exterminate in 5 seconds. So it's like,
Are you
all right.
assaulting me?
So I'm like, screw this. I'm abandoning the shotgun, the bug assault. And now I go full tennis racket. It's like, batter up! That's the wrong sport. So I maneuver. The thing is buzzing. It is massively irritating. And so I take the thing, I rev it up,
Tennis skills.
and I wrangle the tennis racket in between the blinds. And the thing's like, it's raring to go. It's about ready. It's about to execute takeoff.exe when it hits it. It hits the grate. Thank goodness. And, well, I'll tell you right now, that also kind of just ticks it off. It's super angry at this point. The great thing about electricity is when it's coursing through your body, it locks it in one place. Trust me, I have experience in this field. And you have a lot of trouble moving because the current is coursing through you. And what's really wonderful is that wasps and other bugs are incredibly small, and so it doesn't take a whole lot of electricity to do that. So this wasp, also being a wasp, locks on to the grate, is being electrocuted. However, because it's a wasp, it starts trying to sting the tennis racket. It's like, screw you, you stupid tennis racket. If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. Needless to say, I cooked it alive. It was I don't encourage smoking. I think that no one should ever smoke. There is no reason for smoking whatsoever. And this wasp was smoking a lot. So I disapproved of its behavior, even though I partially was the cause of it. And then that was the end of the threat. I took it out.
You gotta post the picture now.
Do I though?
Yes, because it looks really cool, but also terrifying. Like, it looks like something that comes from a sci-fi movie.
Okay, all right. Let me scroll up. We posted a lot of pictures
you
the
can't
other
just say,
day.
I fought this wonderful wasp, and then you post
Real life
like
Waspix.
a tiny little like bee. Nah, you gotta show this guy off.
I found it.
Good prize.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Posting it in the chat.
Look how
Alright, thank you.
terrifying this looks.
Behold Eljay's threat.
Yes, this is I'll go ahead and bring this up. So it's gonna be a little hard to see in this picture.
You gotta open it up, and then like zoom in on it.
There it is. It's a little difficult to see. I mean, I can crop the image, but
Already done that too.
I can do it in XSplit.
Oh, fair.
It's terrifying. Like, imagine seeing that on the back of your neck. Well, I guess you can't really see it.
I don't need to imagine it. I felt it. There we go. There's the threat.
Yeesh.
So I mean, it's about the size. It's roughly the size of a minifigure. It's this huge wasp, and like I wasn't even sure that I killed it then. All I know is that it stopped moving, but I don't know if it was stunned. So I had another of the electric tennis rackets, and I just kind of made like a cage for it with the 2 tennis rackets, and then I walked it outside and disposed of the body, and that
Disposed of the body.
that was my
He
adventures.
plays Halo so much that Halo came to him, so he had a fucking Halo in his room.
That was
Run
my.
out and racket.
I'm gonna consider this not only my Waspix encounter of the second kind, but also my Liwa versus Nui Rama moment. And this time I was victorious.
God.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Did you mentioned being electrocuted? Knowing what that's like, does Hayley know that story?
I don't know that story.
I don't think so. About I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, when I worked irrigation, there was an electric fence. It was an electric wire fence that surrounded a 3-acre pasture to keep cows in. And oh gosh, I don't remember the amperage and the voltage, but I was working on the fence. My younger brother was working beside me. I was leaning over the fence with the wires touching my legs fully, and it was off because I was working on an irrigation valve on the other side of the fence. My younger brother doesn't notice me being over the fence, touching it. He turns the fence back on, and it shocks me significantly enough to result in heart damage. So...
Oh my gosh, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What?
it was a little bit of a...
It's a
Did
little
you think
bit
you're gonna
scary.
get powers?
I hoped, unfortunately, if the power is shortness of breath,
Damn it.
then I'm a superhero.
Feels bad.
But,
Dang. Did
yeah.
you have to be taken to the hospital, or like what happened?
I eventually went to the hospital. I kind of just walked it off.
I just
killed,
got electrocuted.
Get killed, walk it off.
But LJ, if you got struck by lightning, you would just be like, okay, been there, done that. All right, let's get going.
That is exactly how it would be too. I would
So
get
there's your superpower.
I get struck by lightning, and you guys would never hear the end of it if I survived, because then I'd be like, I got struck by lightning, guys. I guess I shouldn't have whispered Shazam.
I love it.
That's what
LJ
you turn
Batson.
into when you turn into Shazam. Dang. You
Shazam!
got the short end of
Boom!
that,
And I
yeah.
just get flung into the wall. But yeah, so that is my story.
Good story.
And I
Interesting.
thought it'd be fun to tell, because at least now that gives us a title, and I thought it was kind of fun to have a story.
There we go.
Well done.
Okay, so
The next
LJ
up.
Redneck
I'm glad you're alive, LJ. You didn't get
Yes.
this
Yeah.
in the back of the neck.
yeah, same.
Life wants to kill LJ, I'll tell you that. It does not want LJ to be alive.
No.
It's like, all right, how can we kill this kid? I know, make him gluten intolerant. Darn, he found a workaround. Lactose intolerant. Darn, he found a workaround for that. Weaken his immune system. Darn it, he's persisting. Throw wasps at him. Throw the wasps at him. Darn it, he's
Give him
killing
more
them.
Agent Wasp.
Electricity. Nuts.
All the gophers. Send the gophers who will lose a will to live.
Go for
What's
a
going
zombie army.
What
Perfect picture.
This is my
Dude, oh my gosh.
boomstick.
The useless booms.
Actually, if there was like an Army of Darkness movie with LJ as the star, I'd watch that.
I would
That'd be
so.
hilarious.
I would love that so much. Holy crud. All right. So,
To cap off the show for the day, let's have a relatively brief discussion about the Spider-Man Far From Home. trailer.
Yeah, Spider-Man finally.
now.
Probably no
Another
more than like
bug.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh my
About
gosh, there's a spider. I'm kidding.
I've
My turn to die.
Fair,
been there before. I killed it on.
Fair
on-
Was it a wasp or a spider? A wasp.
fair warning: if you have not
No
seen
spider.
it in the game, you'll want to leave because the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer does have some spoilers for in-game.
If you've not yet seen the movie Endgame, you probably need to go see it. But if you haven't, well, here comes the discussion.
There you go. Exactly. Good accent. So yeah, you have like a 10-second warning. LJ, you can put up a spoiler picture.
Nah, I gotta go find
No!
it. Oh yeah. Okay.
It was both.
The
Spider.
most terrifying creature I've ever seen. I call it a unibee. I saw it when I was in Tennessee.
Unibee.
It was
Snake
a bee.
clown.
It hovers. Like it has giant wings and it like hovers. But it has its stinger on its forehead.
That's
God.
amazing.
And so it tracks you. Like it will like come towards you and you back up. It will continually follow you, but it's also very fast. So like it will hover and then it'll be gone. It was
Yikes.
terrifying. I was on a bus once because we went to a horse farm and I couldn't go to the horse farm because I would die. So I was on the bus and the unibee literally like came on the bus and like we had to stare down. I got out of my seat and like stared down the aisle at this unibee and it slowly started walking my direction or coming my direction. I'm like, no, there's nobody here. I'm about to die here. This is not good. And then it
Oh,
just
no.
flew off the bus, but it was
Ah,
it was terrifying.
yikes.
Absolutely terrifying. But it was big.
All right.
It was about the size of that wasp, but like a circle, or it was fat with the big giant
You
stinger.
have the spoiler picture up.
Yep, we are all good to
All
go.
right,
I want to make sure people know.
right.
All right. In that case,
They know.
you've been warned sufficiently. So the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer literally opens up with Tony's like
Yeah.
death on the mural, so they really don't
Everywhere I
waste
look,
much
I
time.
just see him. I miss him so much.
I was wondering why they had to do the disclaimer, and that was why. Like the
Yeah, right off
premise
the
is
bat.
that like
Yeah.
Tony's dead and Peter's guilty. That's the whole thing. That's a good question. Adam says, guessing the discussion will move as well.
It won't because I don't have that. I don't have the infrastructure set up.
Oh.
Cool. Patrons
Just-
try to be
Courteous.
Yeah.
even though technically the Russos did lift the spoiler ban.
Yeah, technically
Tomatoes.
speaking, if I mean, we're about 2 weeks out from the film having been released. If you
Mhm.
haven't seen it, either you really are unable to see it, or you're not interested enough in seeing
Don't
it.
care.
So spoiler
Yes.
ban is lifted. Patrons, at least for now, we'll take the responsibility if anyone gets spoiled by this chat.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
The premise is literally like Tony is dead and Peter feels so guilty about it and he wants to live up to his legacy, but he also still wants to be a normal kid. So he's going on this field trip and then Nick Fury's like, hey, we need you. And he's like, you need to step up. And everyone wants him to be the next Iron Man. And I have some issues with this trailer, but first of all, what did you guys think of it? Were you impressed? Are you looking forward to this movie?
Yes.
I do think it's interesting. I feel like they showed a lot more than I would like, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's probably going to be a lot of misdirection or whatever, or maybe face value, and we're getting baited into thinking there's more to it. But either way, I still feel like they showed their hand a lot more than they did with Endgame, and that's kind of frustrating.
Well, that usually happens with Sony trailers. Sony is
Yeah.
obnoxious.
Yeah.
I feel like the multiverse thing did not need to be in the trailer unless it's a misdirect.
Yeah, it's possible.
Hayley, do you like the trailer? You looking forward to
Yeah,
it?
I did. I really enjoyed it. The whole Mysterio thing is really fascinating. Like what trail they're gonna go with that. Like is he gonna be the bad guy? Is he gonna be the good guy? Is he a good guy on this world? Is he a bad guy in another world? Like what's going on with him? Can we trust the multiverse? As much as you don't want to trust Mysterio the first time he says something, like this is a path they could definitely take for the rest of the Marvel or for like the next phase of Marvel. So you want to trust it, but you also don't want to trust it. So it's like, yeah, it's
I trust it for two reasons, and that's because number one, there's no way that whatever offshoot of Shield like Fury's running wouldn't have the tools to scan for like multiverse anomalies. If like Coulson's ragtag band of merry men have that technology, then of course Nick freaking Fury would. There's no way they would take the word of some random schmuck that like the multiverse is a real thing without corroborating evidence. And number two, I think they're likely to actually go that route because they're saying that Far From Home is the ending of this phase, not Endgame. And it's very similar to how Ant-Man was the ending of Phase 2, not not Age of Ultron. And people were like, well, why is that? And it was because it's introducing a new concept that'll be important for the next phase, that being the quantum realm. And boom, that showed up again. So Far From Home introducing the multiverse, I could buy a lot if that's going to be used in the future stories, which I'm 100% sure it will be, particularly to bring the Fox characters over, or some of them anyway. The ones that I want to keep the same actors for might be brought over with the multiverse, like Deadpool. It's kind of a very easy like hand wave thing to do. I don't see them wasting that on a lie. I think the lie part, because Mysterio he's a manipulator, he's an illusionist, he's deceitful, and the lie will be that he was a hero in his reality, but he's not. He's a villain who's coming over to try to gain fame or popularity, etc., and maybe become the new face of superheroes, and or find out Peter Parker is Spider-Man. That's a theory I'm seeing going around too. So that's the current plan. I don't think they're gonna play it straight and have him be a hero. And I'm fine with the multiverse thing. Like, oh yeah.
What did we say earlier? No yawning on the podcast.
Sign of weakness.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I'm fine with the multiverse. It's just, see, I'm in a bit of a gray area with this movie. LJ,
Mm.
you've gone on record
Mm-hmm.
and that you think this has the potential to be the best Spider-Man movie.
Yes. The
Which again,
best
sure,
live
I'll
action
agree.
Spider-Man movie. Will make the
I'll
perfect
agree, it does
picture.
have the potential. But what's your thought process behind that?
My thought process is essentially, with the exception of Spider-Man 3 and both of the Amazing Spider-Man films, every single Spider-Man movie has ended up being better than the early ones. I guess I have a little more of a controversial opinion in where I believe that Homecoming currently stands to be the best live-action Spider-Man movie.
Which
And
I agree with.
fair enough. I think that it stands over the Raimi films. And I personally believe that the Raimi films have not necessarily aged poorly. However, I definitely think that modern filmmaking, modern acting, modern standards have advanced to a degree where Homecoming, even though it might not be the best Marvel movie, is definitely the best Spider-Man live-action film.
Meanwhile, I
think-
do feel like the Raimi films have aged poorly. They're a complete joke in every regard.
I'm
No.
not.
No, they're still good movies. They're just they had really bad visual effects.
They're
or
a
practical
product
effects
of
at
their
the
time. It's not
Yeah.
just the visual effects that suck. The acting is also very
Well, yeah,
very
but they're
early film.
the stories are still very good.
The story of one of them is very
Yeah.
good.
I definitely don't think they're bad movies. Like, I would
Yeah.
watch them still. I think they're perfectly fine. They're very fun. They're very good. They're very comic booky. Certainly.
They're the father of the MCU.
I wouldn't go that far. But
They're the
Well-
drunk uncle.
I wouldn't go that far either.
The grandfather is Blade, and the father is the Rami Spider-Man
Rami.
movies,
Rami.
and then we get to Iron Man.
Sam Rami.
Rami. Some Rami.
Some Rami once told me.
Some Raimi.
All right.
Sorry.
So, I think that this has the potential to be best live-action Spider-Man movie for a few different reasons. Like, as Raminus Prime has mentioned in the Discord chat, he believes personally that Homecoming was not the best Spider-Man movie it could be because of Tony Stark. And this is not an unpopular opinion. A lot of people feel that Tony Stark being involved in the movie was a detriment. It was a crutch that Peter Parker had to rely on. And I get that. I actually don't think that's necessarily an unreasonable perspective to have. This movie doesn't have Tony Stark as a character in it. It has him as a focus of guilt. And so he is obviously still a factor. However, he cannot rely on him as a character from a narrative perspective. So he's out. So now Peter Parker has to rely on his cast of characters. He has to rely... The Spider-Man movie has to rely on its supporting cast and crew. And I think that, combined with, the new suits they're bringing in, the new storyline, the new villain, and all of these different things, is putting this movie, along with the precedent of these movies, in my opinion, getting better as they go on, with a few exceptions. I feel that it is currently in a really good place to be the best of the live-action Spider-Man films thus far.
Which I definitely get that perspective. They're doing a lot of cool stuff with it. My concern is, like, I've gone on record saying I didn't really like Homecoming that much. Not because it's a bad movie, but I think it was overhyped a lot. And when you actually take a look at it, the cracks start to show in its plot and in its interpretation of the characters. But that's not to say it wasn't a fantastic movie, and I do believe it's the best of the Spider-Man movies. The one part that everyone complained about that I never agreed with was the Tony Stark influence thing. Because I feel like when you have to introduce a character into the story, like they did with Peter Parker, where he's already been Spider-Man in this universe, and they have to kind of incorporate him into a big event like Civil War, having another character be the bridge only made sense. And Tony was the bridge in Civil War. So in his own movie, to keep that through line running and to keep that story developing, he had to be there in some capacity because that was the only narrative attachment that Peter had thus far. And they made it work. They gave him his own supporting characters. They gave him Aunt May, his own villains, etc. That were totally him, but Tony was just there. He was a part of the story. He was part of the narrative. I thought it was fine. Far From Home is tipping it a little bit in the direction of not being fine, because I almost feel like they're skipping like 4 Spider-Man movies to kind of rush his development. Because let's look at it like this: Spider-Man: Homecoming was a very small movie. It was the smallest scale Marvel movie. This kid's in school and he's going to a dance, but there's this guy who's trying to steal stuff, and he has to balance being a
Straightforward.
superhero
Very
with
classic.
his kid self. It's a classic movie, and it worked for that because that's Spider-Man. Spider-Man: Far From Home. At first, it's a school field trip, yay, and I was like, this makes sense. But now it is Spider-Man, after he grieves Tony Stark and is being pressured to become the next Iron Man, is recruited by Nick Fury and the branch of S.H.I.E.L.D. to work with an alternate reality hopper illusion magician named Mysterio to stop elemental monsters from wreaking havoc in Europe while trying to live up to the legacy of the leader of the fallen Avengers, while also going on a field trip. It feels like a story that's too big for its movie.
The
almost.
one thing that will save it is if the arc that they treat Spider-Man with is instead of having him focus on being the next Iron Man, is focusing on him like stepping up to something that he's not.
Yes.
I think what they're saying for him is like, you know, are you going to step up? Are you going to do this? We need you. You're like, you need to, you know, da 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 da. But I think what will be cool is if they do that, but he doesn't do it in the end. Like he's not the hero they need, and they
Which
show
I would
that
very much
he's
like.
not. There's no way he's not. He's like, I just want to go live my life and like go say hi to this girl that I like. Like that. I think
If
that's
they go
what's
that
gonna be
direction,
balanced
I'll
to
be
do
very
that.
happy. But it feels like, you know, they go in the trailer and they're like, you know, call Thor. They're like, he's off world. Captain Marvel, she's unavailable.
Useless. Whoops.
And like Peel and Carr
Unavailable.
mentions, it's like Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
This is a Doctor Strange movie. Crazy elemental monsters, the multiverse, dimension travelers. Like, this is Doctor Strange, but with a Spider-Man skin on it, which
Yeah.
is fine. I'm all about putting him in interesting situations, but number one, it feels like too much after Homecoming. Number two,
Yeah.
it's too much of living in the specter of Tony Stark. Unless he
Yeah.
rejects that, like you propose. Hey, like, also, welcome to the party, Var.
Yo, what's up?
The
In the
Vardy.
11th hour, Var joined.
Vardy Gras.
How you doing?
Doing good?
You know, we're just talking about the trailer.
Yeah, I hear that.
In the event that he rejects all that, that's cool, and I'll approve of that direction. But because that will give him some autonomy. But the biggest complaint about Spider-Man so far, to me, isn't so much that Tony was a part of Homecoming, but it's that Peter Parker's upbringing and his backstory and his own sense of purpose and self is kind of being either written out or not included at all to make room for having to live up to the legacy of Tony Stark. Eljay linked a Reddit post that very succinctly summarized it. I don't know if you have that handy. Never mind, I found it. I got it. And they essentially say, you know, in the comments about this, there was nothing Peter could possibly have done to save Tony. The raw fact that a father figure dies is not the origin story. The fact that he died practically because of Peter is the defining aspect of the origin. Spider-Man is intrinsically tied to guilt. But hey, Iron Man's sidekick it is. His motivation is now about filling a void and living up to a legacy rather than never-ending redemption. Maybe that doesn't sound like a change worth noting, but to me it feels substantial. Stepping back into the movies, the thing that makes Peter's confession to Aunt May and Spider-Man 2 so compelling is that it's more than just a typical superhero, I should have done more, you can't save everyone crap. That's what May tried to pass it off as. But Peter has to tell her, no, seriously, it was my fault. And even Aunt May, the greatest paragon of understanding and love in Marvel, is appalled and has to leave the room. This is the enormity of Peter's guilt, and it's just not there in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
And that's... I don't mind that Tony Stark's a part of his story, but I mind that
They're completely changing.
his
motivation.
shadow has not only completely changed his motivation, but it eclipses whatever autonomy Peter would have as a character.
Yeah, I can
They could
understand
do
that.
Yeah.
they could get it back by the ending, and I could be great with it.
Mhm.
We'll see though.
That is like one of my potential like issues that's going to be with this movie is just that it's like too interconnected with the rest of the MCU. Like a lot of the plot and like the relationships just draw too heavily on like other films instead of like letting it be its own thing. Like that's what I enjoyed about Homecoming was that it didn't have that much of an overall tie to everything else going on. I feel like this has a lot of like consequences from other movies and like other people you have to deal with, blah blah blah, that just come from other stuff that you can't really enjoy the movie for being itself. Like you'd have to know all of the context around it to
It's the in-game
enjoy it.
epilogue, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely agree. I do think there might be one way that they could bring it back and kind of tie it all together, and that would be to introduce Uncle Ben as a character within this movie. Because for whatever reason they've been avoiding him, and obviously it's because it's a story that everybody who's going to see this movie has already heard.
Overused in Spider-Man movies.
Right. So they avoided doing that in
Yeah.
Homecoming, so that they could do something a bit different, something a bit more unique, and that kind of thing.
They could do that.
But yeah, see,
Yeah.
the thing is, like, now is actually a pretty good time to bring him up.
He lost Tony Stark, like he lost Uncle
Right.
Ben. So
Exactly.
it's like happening again for him.
Exactly. So it could be because we start following Peter after he's already kind of completed this loss of Uncle Ben journey. But with Tony now dying, it's a it's a thing where it kind of regresses that momentum he had back to where he was when Uncle Ben passed away as well. So it could be a good time to tie that together and show like he's lost two father figures now that are important to him. Especially like, I mean, now since May actually knows Peter's identity as well.
Yeah.
It could be a good bonding moment between them as well. We can actually like get May's side of her grief in terms of losing Uncle Ben, and maybe she can give him some advice or something. So I think that would be a good way to actually kind of tie it back and bring in Peter's original origin story and connect it with the current MCU story and make it all work. Will they actually do that? I don't know, but I think they could get
down with it.
I think they could get away with it, especially now that the movie is going in this completely different direction than we've ever seen a Spider-Man movie go before. I think audiences will be okay if they bring in Uncle Ben now as a character.
Well, it's important to his story.
Yeah.
And I forgot to mention when I was talking about my critiques with the trailer. That's the other thing. Everyone knows Peter's secret identity. They've they're getting rid of the significance of his story. They're like changing it, and they're also changing the significance of people not knowing he's Spider-Man. Everybody knows. Shield all knows. The Avengers know. Ned knows. MJ has figured it out. Aunt May knows, and we skipped her reaction, and it was off screen. Random people from alternate realities know.
I mean, once again, this could be an opportunity for them to actually introduce this as a concept, with everybody knowing, assuming Quentin Beck ends up becoming evil, him knowing Peter's identity will probably screw things up a lot.
Totally.
Adding actual consequences could remind him, like, hey, your identity is important in keeping the people close to you safe. So they could do that now. I don't think they're going to do that, though.
That is a good concept, but I feel like, it's probably not a thing.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're changing that so that they're trying really, really hard to avoid the Spider-Man tropes that we've seen before. And it's both to a benefit and a detriment. Like the whole Mary Jane thing is it's the biggest issue that I have. I think
that too, like just connected with what you said last. I'm hoping that what you're saying could be a thing because there will be ramifications from that scene that they're showing where she's already suspecting he's Spider-Man.
Right.
Yeah. There's got to be some consequence to it.
Agreed.
It's just a little annoying to see like you have an opportunity because we really haven't actually seen Spider-Man adapted properly. He's had one good adaptation and then one meh adaptation, but neither one were really accurate to his actual portrayal in the comics. I would say the Raimi one was closer, but there were still elements of that were wrong. And were changed to fit that narrative. But they have a chance and an opportunity now to introduce these things and, you know, actually give us these characters as they're meant to be. Like, we have yet to see a Mary Jane as she actually is in the comics. Every single like on-screen presence of Mary Jane's been completely different. And I mean, I actually like Zendaya as the love interest. I think that character works, and I can see that character being a version of Mary Jane. Just they're so scared of, you know, doing like retreading ground we've already covered before that they won't even call her Mary Jane, but they will call her MJ. You know, it's I wish they would just like
They're trying
just
to have their
commit.
cake and eat it too.
Yeah, just
They're
commit
trying-
to it's Spider-Man. Everybody knows Spider-Man. Sure, what people want are new, unique, original stories. That doesn't mean you need to change every core aspect of his origin.
Yeah, they're trying to please the fans of Spider-Man by throwing in enough references and homages to make them happy, whilst also changing like basically most of the core tenets of the character, from the secret identity to the friends he has to his origin story, etc., etc. And it doesn't work both ways. It could work if it was flipped and they kept the tenants, but they did new stuff with everything else. But it feels like it's the superficial, not to like decry the movies, but it feels like it's the superficial aspect that they're paying the most homages to, and the stuff that matters is what they're changing.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Yeah. I mean, well, I would say that there is a precedent for the MCU to radically alter characters from the ground up. So,
100%.
Mandarin.
Rip Mandarin.
I would also say like Tony Stark is a character that they've changed quite a bit to fit the MCU narrative a bit more than how he actually is in the comics. I mean, they changed his sort of alcoholism into more of like a PTSD, like doomsday scenario kind of thing. He's more responsible as a character, and that was for the benefit of Tony Stark as a character in the MCU. So that's kind of why I want to give them, you know, the benefit of the doubt with Spider-Man. I'm sure they've got this great plan coming out that we are like, there's supposed to be 3 movies. So I hope that it leads to something great and everything, but it is a little unfortunate that we're not getting, you know, Spider-Man as we know him.
Vard, you had a
Well-
theory where they're heading with this. Is this something you wanted to discuss now or later?
I mean, yeah, I can bring it up. It's just a theory. I don't really have anything
The
concrete.
context. What sparked the discussion was we were reading a rumor thread about future Marvel movies from unsubstantiated sources, of course, but one of them claims that Norman Osborn will be introduced in this phase, and that he will be the ultimate version of the character going forward, and will be a major player.
I believe that if they are gonna bring in Norman Osborn, it's going to be the ultimate version. One, because there's a precedent from wanting to avoid things that have already been done, right? So we already had traditional Green Goblin on the glider twice. They're not gonna want to do that again. But Green Goblin is really important to Spider-Man as a character. He is his arch nemesis. So wanting to do that would be something that I'm sure they would want to end the Spider-Man franchise on, the trilogy. So I don't think that they would want to ignore Norman Osborn as a character. So since it's very clear that this version of Spider-Man is borrowing so heavily from the Ultimate Comics, you know, Mary Jane finding out his identity, the younger, more hipper Aunt May, the Ned Leeds character who's basically Gonke. You know, there's a lot of things that they're obviously adapting. Even the Iron Man armor from Homecoming was straight out of the Ultimate Comics. Anyway, so yeah, they're obviously adapting Ultimate more so than 616. So I think it makes sense that if they are going to bring in Norman Osborn and there is a 3rd movie confirmed, he's going to be the villain of the 3rd movie. It's likely going to be Ultimate Green Goblin. And another reason I believe that is because they are increasing the scope and the stakes of the MCU so much that going to traditional Green Goblin just would not work as a final arch nemesis for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
like we're now in this part where we are going into multiverse. There are like elemental monsters that Spider-Man is battling. You know, like he survived freaking Infinity War, where he killed aliens from another, like, you know, like basically a different universe. Like we are beyond the scope of a goofy guy in a Halloween costume now. So it makes more sense to introduce the Ultimate Green Goblin, which is more of a like demon monster like thing, which definitely fits more with the scope that they're going for now.
Yeah.
In which case, the implications of that mean that if we are going that direction, we are following the Ultimate story a lot. They have introduced multiverse. They are bringing in Norman Osborn and the Green Goblin, Ultimate Green Goblin. The likelihood is that with 3 confirmed Spider-Man movies and the rights of Spider-Man going back to Sony being inevitable, the 3rd movie might end with maybe a Peter Parker death.
Indeed, which is a thing that happens in the comics.
Which,
Indeed.
yeah, is a thing that happens in the comics. He does die to the Ultimate Green Goblin. And he dies very
Indeed.
young. He dies I think he's 16 years old when he dies in the Ultimate Comics, which, since they're trying to really portray this younger version of Spider-Man, I think it makes sense that this is what they're doing.
It would not surprise me, not one bit.
It would not surprise me, but it would immensely disappoint me. Because while I'm sure they could do it very well, and it would be a really good adaptation, gosh dang, I cannot fathom a better Peter Parker than Tom Holland.
Yeah.
And they would
he's
be
so good.
they would be throwing that away. That would be so
there
immensely
could be
disappointing.
Another Tom Holland in another universe. And they just introduce Miles Morales in the MCU.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, it like Prentice brings up a point that I also agree with. It's more of I hope they don't do this more so than I don't think they're going to, but I hope they don't do it because they already kind of did the bait and switch. They already killed him off before. So it would feel really strange if he died again, 2 movies later.
Yeah, what?
But we also don't know when the 3rd movie is going to come up either. We don't have a release date for that. So for all we know, the 3rd Spider-Man movie isn't going to show up until the end of Phase 4, Phase 5,
Certainly possible.
So at that point, he will likely have shown up multiple times in Avengers and other crossover events, and we will have gotten to know him a lot more, gotten used to him a lot more, and kind of forgotten about that fake out with Infinity War. So that could justify his ultimate demise a bit better.
Maybe. All definitely possible.
I hope they don't do it though. I don't want them to kill him off. So
yeah,
and I agree that it would be kind of meh, especially following the Infinity War death.
well, the benefit of having, Peter Parker still be in high school is that we finally have that opportunity to grow up with him. But in order to grow up with him, they need to keep making movies to actually have that develop. And if for some reason there's like controversy with the rights or behind the scenes or studio politics, that could all get screwed up, and they might feel the need to rush his development to actually have some kind of emotional resonance. So we'll have to see what they do. But that's in general. That's
it really
pretty much the trailer.
It really comes down to what's going on with the rights to the Spider-Man character. I think that's going to really determine what their plan is. And I'm sure they probably have multiple things planned out and different endings to what they can do with Spider-Man.
Of course.
Depending on negotiations. So I don't know. I don't know what they have in store. I just know that I know Tom Holland has confirmed 3 films.
We just
don't
know.
Sorry.
That's the saga of TTV podcast.
Quote of the century.
It all works out.
Yeah.
So yeah. In closing, Var, you missed like a large chunk of the conversation. You have any thoughts on this overall trailer or the movie in general?
Yeah, I like it. It looks cool. It looks like one problem that I did have with Homecoming was that while it was a cool smaller film, it did feel inconsequential in the long term. And it also felt like a step back in terms of watching, a Spider-Man film after seeing like how big in scope like Amazing Spider-Man 2 was, even if that was a bad movie. How far the original Raimi films went. Watching Spider-Man in such a small scale story was, I mean, it did feel like we weren't really getting everything that we could. I mean, he never even like really swung through New York at any point in that movie either. He didn't even know how to swing in that movie. So it does look like we're getting more of the Spider-Man power set and usage of his powers. He's fighting more fantastical enemies that will be able to give him more range in terms of combat. So I like it. I like the scope, and we're going in a direction that we've never seen before. So I think the movie is going to be good. I like the trailer, and yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Well, do any of you have any final thoughts before we begin the wrap up?
No.
proceedings?
Nope. Wrap it up.
I'm all good.
Nope.
All right.
All
Fair
right.
enough. Well, that will be that for TTV episode 319. Please, if you have any thoughts on Spider-Man Far From Home, the future of the MCU, S.H.I.E.L.D., anything we talked about today,
Hold on.
Eljay.
Very briefly, I do apologize to do this to you. We actually do have one final super chat.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, cool.
Yes, this is also from Makuta Pterodax. It's 2 euros. Thank you very, very
Yikes.
kindly. With the message, unapologetic shill, my Twitter handle, Lord Pterodax. Lord_Pterodax.
Go follow him. He's a good dude. Thank you for everything, man.
Good dude.
Thank you.
All right, sorry,
Brother of
continue.
rude dude.
All right. So, yes, we'll see you all next week for TTV episode 320. 100 off from the big and
Almost
yeah.
there.
Our patron shout out this week will go to, I'll pick someone who's active. Oh, I'll do Diggy. Shout out to you, Diggy.
Hector,
Hector
our
Hype.
newest patron.
Happy Termination Day, Diggy. Happy Termination
It's
Day.
yesterday, son.
All right.
You want the music, Meso?
Yes, give the music. We'll see you all next week
hope it's
for
not
another
loud.
exciting episode.
Please don't be
of
loud.
TTV.
Hey, that's not
Adrian
bad.
G.
Hey, you did it.
Adrian G. $2. I'm in the final super chat.
Hey, way to subvert expectations.
Props. All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Later,
I'm
y'all.
Meso.
Bar.
I'm Eljay.
I'm Invi.
And I'm Hayley.
And farewell, everybody. We will see you next week for another exciting podcast. Next week will probably be Brickfeed. There's a lot of Lego news to catch up on. So, yeah.
See ya.
Bye bye.